Here's the pattern I'll be using for the front panels of the jacket. The pattern itself will be available in the description below. A useful tool for when you're working with leather and vinyl is to use a Teflon foot. It's pretty much a non-stick foot that'll help with top stitching, and it won't catch the fabric as you're working with it. It goes pretty smooth, so I highly recommend it. As seen here, I'm top stitching all of the panels so they can lay nice and flat. Top stitching is completely optional, it's not always needed, but because of the fabric I'm working with, it's preferred because, as you can see here, it kind of bunches up all funny and that you can't really iron the leather. Shown here is the back pattern for the back panels. I highly recommend that you pin the pattern into place because it is curved and it's going to be very difficult to sew. Usually I use pins with everything, but because I have made these jackets so many times, it's become second nature with some of the easier pattern pieces, such as the straight line ones. Yay, more top stitching. As I said before, using a Teflon foot makes life so much easier. Also, use the corresponding threads so it looks nice and neat and clean. Here's the front and back panels completed and ready to be sewn together. Off camera, I already cut out the lining panels as shown here. Time to pin all the pieces together and start sewing. Pinning is especially important to make sure all the panels and sides line up nice and neat as such. Now it's time for the sleeve pattern. First step is going to be doing the sleeves on the lining itself. Again, pinning is going to be very important to make sure that the sleeves line up with the sleeve hole on the jacket. Now we're back to the outer shell of the jacket where we're going to be working on the sleeves for that. Once again, going to be sewing the panels together and then top stitching afterwards to get the nice clean look. This time around you have to be especially careful with pinning because of the two white panels that have to match up in the end on the sleeves, so please take your time, even go back if you have to. Here's the finished product of the outer shell, all put together and nice and clean and beautiful. The next step is we're going to be sewing the outer shell and the lining together. Just before sewing them together, we have to make the flaps that go at the edges of his jacket first. Next is to sandwich the white flaps in between the lining and the outer shell, so when we turn it inside out, they will be properly fitted in between. Now onto the collar of the jacket. It's important to measure the neckline of your jacket so you get an accurate measure of what your collar should be. Your collar should be about 3 to 4 inches tall, so the full pattern piece should be about 6 to 8 inches because you're going to fold it over and sew up the sides. Something I forgot to record was to make sure to top stitch the collar of the jacket. It's time to pull that sucker inside out through the armholes of the jacket so you can see the lining and the outer shell all neatly sewn together with the flaps and the collar. I sewed together the outer shell and the lining of the sleeves. This is optional, you can just simply sew them together or zigzag stitch together before adding the cuff. The method for making the cuffs for the sleeve is very similar to making the collar of the jacket. I forgot to record everything for that moment, so I'm going to have a more detailed and written explanation of that in the pattern itself. So now we're all done. Here's the finished product. It takes about, for myself, about 5 to 6 hours to complete a jacket of this sort. And that is how I make my Keith jackets. Thank you so much for watching.